My name's Dr. Jane Anetrini. I'm a chiropractor and I'm an attunement server. I've been practicing chiropractic since 1980, but I've been practicing attunements since about 1979, so done that longer than dealing with the physical aspect of the body. But I became a chiropractor because of my trust and belief in the design of the human body and the fact that we were designed to work. I ended up foregoing my dream of becoming a medical doctor when I realized that most of the things that were natural in the body were seen as disease, such as getting a cold is a disease as opposed to getting rid of an infection, or having a baby requires you to be in the hospital. I'm not saying we shouldn't use the hospital, but there was something that awakened in me of the great design of how the human body worked. And so I ended up getting excited about the spiritual dimensions of that. I've spent most of my life wanting to know and touch the sacred as often as possible. I've spent many years in a church, many years on my knees, lots of things that allowed me to touch what was precious and sacred to me, using forms that were taught to me, using forms that other people thought were important. And there came a point in my life where I realized I didn't need other people to get to the sacred. I found someone who told me, guess what? You already are. Guess what? The sacred lives in you. And I found that to be true, and my reliance on the church and the religion I knew became less and less, and my understanding of the oppression of that grew more and more. So as an attunement server, it's an energy medicine, it's a physical medicine, it's a spiritual medicine. It's not, I don't even want to use the word medicine. It's an energy, physical, spiritual opportunity. It is a means of using the body, the spirit, the emotional realm, all that we're made of, to come into balance, to know that this is already an amazing, magnificent we already are magnificent and amazing. So many times when I'm teaching attunement, I talk about the energy that's moving through our body. And I have people put their hands as close as they need to start feeling the energy that's right there. And for some people, they have to get really close. And for some people, just even doing it for the first time, they feel like this whole sphere of energy that is like this wall ball of energy that is right in them available. And I tell them, if you know that, if you feel that or touch that, now you have the first step of engaging with another person's energy. Because if you are centered and whole and respectful of the person you're going to share an attunement with, you now have the opportunity to bring balance to the person who is going to receive this attunement. And one of the wonderful things about attunement is you ask the person to be conscious with you. It's not like I'm going to zap you. I'm going to use this energy and manipulate your substance. You are designed to be in balance, and I'm going to assist your body to come to balance. So I use this energy, and I use your energy, and we find a way to magnify wholeness, blessing, steadiness. In attunement, we use the endocrine glands as touchstones. There are 7 major ones that are part of an attunement. And the first thing you do when you want to share an attunement is you stand or look at or be in the presence of the being who you're going to have the privilege of sharing this with. So you are experiencing what a privilege, what a sacred act it is to share this with another human being. So you find yourself centered and ready to offer what's possible, knowing that whatever response is coming from the person is what you get to work with. And most of the time, the person who's receiving the attunement wants an attunement, so you know there's already some response. It's not an experience of, well, lay there and receive this. I've had, both as a chiropractor and as an attunement server, had people sent to me by people who say, you really need this. But unless there's some response to it, it can be an imposition, and I'm not interested in that at all. So when I'm standing, you can stand or sit, but you begin by balancing the cervical pattern, which is the very top of the cervical spine. There's an atlas and an axis, C1, C2. And right at the very beginning, top of there, is where you start to feel the energy moving through a person. And you can often feel it, especially if you've developed this energy with any time, any experience. You can start to feel that one side might feel more powerful than the other. And you just hold it until you feel like it's balanced, that there's this is about the same as this. And you just hold it, and then you say, okay, let's see where we can go. And the seven endocrine glands we use is the pineal, which is in the center of the head, the pituitary, which is right behind the brow. Then we go to the thyroid, the thymus, then go down to the islets of Langerhans, which are in the pancreas, go back to the adrenals, which are on top of the kidneys, and the gonads, which are the ovaries in women and the testes in men. And the man who discovered or labeled attunement or first shared attunements did it here at Sunrise Ranch. Well, actually, I take that back. He started doing attunements before coming to Sunrise Ranch. But in being at Sunrise Ranch, he started to invite people to come here to learn about attunement. And many of them were chiropractors, because chiropractors already had a sense of innate intelligence that were in human beings. I mean, that's there whether a person acknowledges it or not. But he used to teach the spiritual principles of bringing balance into the human experience. And so he would have people here for 6 months just working with the understanding of how attunement works in a person, and how energy fields work in a person, how the creative process works for a person. So going back to the endocrine glands, he discovered that these endocrine glands were focuses of energy in a person's body. And he named them based on his perception of what was coming to focus in those glands. So when it came to the pineal gland, he found that was where the silver cord, if you know that phrase, it's in the Bible, but other people know it too, like the silver cord connects you to life, and when that's severed, a person no longer is alive. You don't have to be a religious person to have known or heard of that. But right where the silver cord connects, or where the pineal gland is a very strong current of love, because it's where love enters a human person's body, a human being, and floods them. So love floods the entire body, but this is the initial portal, is right through the pineal gland. And so we have hand positions for all of in sharing an attunement, and you focus one hand, usually your dominant hand, your most radiant hand, where the pineal is, and your less dominant hand goes to a point on the body where the nervous system might be connected to that, so that you're now holding a flow between yourself of blessing through your dominant hand and receiving with your other hand, so that which is going into the person is moving through you while it's moving through the person. And then when that feels balanced, you go to the pituitary. And the spirit that comes to focus in the pituitary gland is the spirit of the womb. And the spirit of the womb is that which holds things. I mean, if you think of a woman's womb, it holds a fetus. It holds what is being born, what is being grown. And both men and women have the capacity to hold a cycle, to hold a pattern, to hold their world. And it comes to focus in their pituitary gland, so that when you are helping to balance that, you are assisting a person to hold their whole world. And you get to hold their world with them and just allow something to feel as though, I got this with you, we're doing this together. Relax into your capacity. You have the capacity to hold what's happening for you, and I'm here to help you do that. And so as you move down the body and we go to the thyroid gland, that is a place where there's an abundant experience of life. And they say that when love meets truth, life is born. And so like when the current of love moves into the world through a pattern of control, which is the pattern of the womb, what happens is the manifestation of life, more life. So we go to the thyroid gland, and again, we have hand positions for that. But the thyroid gland is a major focus for that spirit. And again, we get to open for a person, not to manipulate them, but to just say, this is you. This is what's natural for you. This is an abundant place of joy for you. Let me assist you by bringing a balance to that for you, so that you, and just open something up, a possibility of manifestation of more life, more joy in your world. Some people have asked me, because many, many people in this world have had their thyroid operated on or are now on thyroid medication. They say, can it still work? And it's like, the body is so amazing. Even if you've had your entire thyroid removed, the vibrational aspect of that gland still resides in your body. There's remnant cellular tissue, even if they say they took it all out because you had cancer or you didn't need it. The energy of that gland never leaves your body. And so we get to balance that. We get to go down to the thymus gland, which is right below your sternum here. This is the episternal notch. Epi means up, sternum, episternal. Right here, there's a notch on everybody. And there's a gland there that's incredibly active in babies. It's very strong with the immune system when children are born. It becomes less active as we grow older. And then when we're a senior citizen, it gets active again, which they believe it's partly because senior citizens become innocent again in their experience of life. But the thymus gland brings to focus a spirit of purification, which, if you think about the immune system, that's what the immune system does. It purifies and things that come into your body that don't belong there. It assists to get them out. And so when you're assisting a person to balance their thymus gland, you allow them to go through that transformation process. There are things that don't belong here, things that I didn't need to engage with, things that, and for the person who's sharing it with them, you're allowing that to all be transformed because it doesn't really matter, because we're now walking into, what are we going to do with our life now? Let's allow the intensification of purification to happen in that person. And then again, when that feels balanced, when the energy seems to be flowing, and when you share an attunement, it's like while the radiation is moving through you, it's moving through this person you're sharing with and coming back through this hand. You get to participate in this big figure eight of experience and holding their pattern while you stay steady and centered. So after we do the thymus gland, we go down to the islets of Langerhans, which are part of the pancreas, the islets of Langerhans. The pancreas has so many functions. Some of it's digestive, some of it's hormonal. But one of the things about using the endocrine glands is they all are sources of hormonal excretions into the body. And the hormones in the body are such powerful agents. They're catalysts for so much, as we all know that the pituitary is the master gland that controls so many things. And the adrenals are really responsible for a person's energy. The pancreas is responsible for the digestion of sugar. That's why when it's not working well, people get diabetes. But it's also a source of the spirit of blessing. And when you think about nourishment, sugar, not in the white sugar kind of way, but sugar molecules, that kind of energy, carbohydrates, the necessity of your body being blessed. I mean, here is this incredible organ blessing your body all the time. And so what we focus on is the islets of Langerhans, which is the more endocrine part of the pancreas as opposed to the digestive part. And again, that's the spirit of blessing. And I'll tell you, many times when I'm sharing an attunement with a person, it's such a privilege to acknowledge that I get to bless them by holding this, but what a blessing they are to their world that they don't realize. And so I'm holding it knowing, don't ever forget how much you bless your world. Don't let any day go by where you don't realize the very presence of who you are is a blessing to the people who love you. If you're a blessing to anybody, but so to bathe a person in the experience of blessing, how can I get better than that? And I can tell you, we have a real shortage of blessing in the world. People need to be receiving blessing, and one of the ways we receive blessing is partly by allowing ourselves to bless. You don't have to do one before the other, because the spirit of love and life blesses you regardless of what you're thinking or feeling, because you already are a son or daughter of the mystery, son or daughter of God, whatever your phrase would be for that. You are already precious to that which made you and to that which you serve. So after we balance the islets of Langerhans, we go to the adrenals, which we have two of them, one on the top of each kidney. They look like little acorns sitting up there. The adrenal glands, many people are more familiar with those than most people because we think of adrenaline and how it makes us fight or flight is part of what adrenaline does. It has far more complexity than that. But it has been said that the amount of adrenaline a person excretes in their lifetime is something like a half a teaspoon. So it just shows the potency of that hormone. But the spirit that comes to focus in the adrenal glands is the single eye. Interesting that we have two of them. But the single eye is the spirit of what are you focusing on? And what is it that your life is about? So many people are double-minded about the value of their life, and they go this way and that way, looking for purpose. When we get to balance and assist a person to know the spirit of the single eye, the spirit of focus, the spirit of paying attention to what's precious to you, paying attention to what you love, this is a way to balance that and allow people in some ways to forgive themselves, forgive the fact that they've given their attention to the wrong things, and let's just set the path for what you want to be doing right now. Allow the spirit of focus, the spirit of the single eye to be balanced and wholesome for you. And consequently, when you do that, when you go to the gonads, the ovaries and the testes, the spirit that comes to focus there is the spirit of the new earth. Ta-da! We get to create something new. When all this is balanced, it's like, well, what's the new earth going to look like? Because when you're focused, when you know you've got blessing to give, when you experience the possibility of purifying things that you wish you hadn't done, now we get to have the new earth. And as most people know, the gonads are about reproduction in the human experience. But what about the new earth that has nothing to do with birthing babies? What about the new earth that is in our hands? Because as we consecrate it, the earth knows something different, because a human being who knows who they are, who's bringing a current of blessing into the world, is now going to manifest something that is of service to everybody, something that is holy and sacred and precious. And if it's precious to you, don't ever let anybody take it away from you. And don't let somebody tell you what's supposed to be precious. Because if this is what's precious to you, let yourself serve it, let yourself love it, and let yourself acknowledge what's precious for another person, so that then the communion of that is like two people doing that together. One of the most wonderful things about an attunement is that it's two people wanting to do that together. And for me, because I've been doing this for years, I often share attunements where my intention is consecration and blessing of my whole field, not just my body. My body's involved, my spirit's involved, vibration is involved, but everything I'm connected to gets to be balanced if I'm consciously aware of that. And there are times I share attunements with people who aren't even present, and I know they need support. There are times that me and the person who I'm sharing an attunement with, we consciously bring someone into awareness because we know they could use our support. It's a very, very powerful tool.